Hello everyone, welcome to CraftApple. My name is Caroline, and today we're going to do the abbreviated version of the beaded bell. This is the beaded bell right here. If you have never beaded before, this is not the video for you. If you have never beaded before, then I recommend that you start with my tutorial on the icicle, and then progress to the candy cane, and then progress to the star-like snowflake. This is going to give you the basic concept of the technique that is used to make the beaded bell. So if you get a good handle on this, then you'll be in a good position to learn this. And I do suggest that when you attempt the beaded bell, that you start with the long 2.5 hour version of this video. In that video, I put on every single bead with you and try and give you tips and tricks to get the fishing line to go through the beads so that you have the best chance of success possible. This video here is for those of you who have beaded before or have seen the other video many times and just need a refresher. I'm not going to put on every single bead. I'm going to try and speed you through it so that you don't have to sit here for an hour trying to find the place or have a hard time finding the place in the video where you need that brush up. Alrighty, if you want to, you can buy a kit to make one of these or any of these other ornaments as well. You can buy those from my Etsy site. You can just go to Etsy and look up CraftApple. I should pop up, hopefully. You can also purchase finished versions of these ornaments if you want one to use as an example as you try and make the kit. So I'm happy to make those available to you. It's listed that I have like a whole bunch done, but I really don't. So if you want one of those, I'll make those to order for you. I don't mind that at all. I like making stuff. So if you decide to buy a kit from me, I'll hold up the bell one. It's got a little baggie. It's got a little label in it telling you what's in there. I really should put the link on there. I'm gonna do that next time. I'll put the link for the tutorial on there. And then on the back side you can see I have the monofilament for you, and all of the beads are counted out. Now, in the case of the little round gold beads and the little oat-shaped gold beads, I counted them out once and then weighed them and then added another 1/10 of a gram. So you should have plenty in there. Cross our fingers. If you don't, then you can short the handle a bead or two and it's not going to make any difference. Hopefully there are enough in there though that if 2 beads are stuck together or the hole is clogged in one or one falls on the floor and you can't find it, that there should be enough in there so that you don't have any problems, that there will be enough for you to finish the bell. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to maneuver my camera so that it's pointing down at my project, and I will be back with you momentarily. All right, folks, I am back with you. I've got all my materials in this tray, and I counted these out just like I did in your kits, so the gold ones by weight and counting out the black ones. And I've got my piece of monofilament here, and we're gonna get started here. Do keep in mind that we're not gonna tie this off until the very end, so we're gonna have to be very careful to keep our beads from sliding off of here. If you have a chip clip or a clothespin or a binder clip, you might want to go grab that because it'll be very helpful in keeping your beads from sliding off the end. I couldn't find one, so I'm going to just be very careful. I'm going to do that by draping the long end of my string over my left hand and closing my hand over it because I'm just going to work with this shorter end for now, so I don't want my beads just going way to the other end of the string. Okay, I'm probably going to move my tray of stuff off camera here in a second, so you won't be able to see it, but it'll be right there because my camera will have a hard time focusing on my fingers otherwise. Gotta upgrade these things, really. Maybe I'll do that if my channel takes off. So subscribe, folks, and help me get a better camera. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and move my tray, and we're gonna put 12 the 8mm beads on our string. I'm gonna move my camera just a little bit closer to me. Maybe just a little bit that way too. Yeah, that's good. Okay, so I probably don't need to tell you folks this, but when you're holding your beads to thread them, if you keep the hole going east-west through your thumb and forefinger, or north-south like this through your thumb and forefingers, so that there's nothing blocking that hole, you're going to have a lot easier time getting those on your string. So there's one. Two, three, four, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. All right, now I'm going to take this short end, my temporary working end, and I'm going to make a loop with it and lay it back up against the thread that I just threaded these onto, so you can see it making a big loop. And then I'm going to hold these here together and use them as one string, and then slide all of these beads back onto it. So there's 2 back on. I'm just going to hold it like this in my hands and just kind of maybe keep the ones I've already threaded back in my left hand, just so that they don't, you know, the weight of it doesn't pull this other string out of my hand or something. 3, whoops. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now I just dropped those down because my hand was getting full. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, now I'm going to hold these 2 together and then bring my long end and lay it up beside all these as well. So now I've got 2 strings going through my beads and 3 strings laying together here at the top, all like we're pretending they're all one string. And what we're going to do is we are going to put all those beads so that we're going to line this up here, and we're going to slide them on again so that we have 3 strings going through all of these beads in a circle. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, now we should have a loop that looks kind of like a French horn. Uh-oh, where my mouthpiece here is on one side. What a mess. Here's my mouthpiece over here. And I've got lots of coils going on over here. Okay, I pulled the strings a little tighter so you can see it a little better now. So I have my short end over on one side and my long end over on another side. And I'm going to take my short end and I'm going to go through one bead on the other side again, retaining my loop, and kind of pull that tight so that my beads form a ring. And I'm actually going to pull my tail end through so that I have like a foot left, because that's going to help keep my beads from falling off, to have a nice long tail. And if you have your chip clip or your binder clip or your clothespin, this is a great place to just clip your clothespin. That'll help the ring stay nice and tight while you're trying to do the next row. Next rows. Oh, let me go ahead and give you the overview of what we're doing, because I forgot to do that at first. So let me grab my pen. Okay, so we just put on this row of 12 right here. Our next two rows are going to be putting on these gold frilly things. So we're going to do every other one on one trip, and then we're going to actually start over here and do the ones that we missed on the first trip. Then what we're going to do is these series of triangles. There's two oats and with a 2.5 millimeter round in the middle. So there's a triangle, there's a triangle, there's a triangle. We're going to do that all the way around. And then on the next row, we're going to put these black 8 millimeter beads in between each triangle. Then the next row, we're going to make triangles again. And the next row, we're going to put in the black beads again for 2 more sets. And then we're going to put on another row of triangles, and instead of putting on black 8 millimeter beads, we're going to put a 2.5 millimeter bead in between and cinch that up. Then we're going to put on these oat beads here that make kind of a plus sign across the top of the bell. It's hard to kind of show you that, but they make like a plus sign. Then we're going to come down here and make the clapper, and go back up here and make the handle. And then we're going to work our string all the way back down through the beads of the bell, back to our tail, and then tie a knot with our tail and snip our string. So once you get kind of the basic rhythm of what you're doing, it's not too difficult, but getting that rhythm and then remembering, oh, what row am I on and how do I figure out what bead do I go into next, can be challenging. It might take you a few times. Nothing wrong with that. That's normal. All right, so here we go. We're going to put on the first row of frilly things. So 6, we're going to work off the long end now. So we're going to just keep that short end with our clip on it, if you've got a clip, until the very end. We're not going to work with that again until the very, very end. So now we're going to take our long end, our long end, and I'm going to pinch it like a needle because I think it's going to be easier to get the little gold beads out of my tray if I have it held like a needle. So we need 6 of those little gold beads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whoops, 5, 6. All right, as we go around our bell, I'm going to let those drop. As we go around our bell, we're going to make sure and keep our string going in the same direction the whole time. So my string, the way I'm holding it now, seems to be going counterclockwise. It's coming out of this bead right here. Here's my tail over here coming out on this side. Here's my working end coming out on this side, my long side. And it's going this way. It's making a little kind of triangle mountain shape around this bead right here, around this one. So we're going to go in the next bead over on the other side of that here. So you can kind of thinking of it as putting the back side of the mountain on. So we're going to put on the back side of the mountain and go in the next bead over. So if you lose your spot, look for that mountain, look for that string trying to cling to the edge of the next bead over, and hopefully that will help you to find your spot. Okay, so now we're going to do that again and all the way around. So six little gold ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now I don't have fancy editing software, so I can't really speed this up, or if I can, I don't know how. So you're going to have to sit with me a little bit here. So I'm going to do the next one. You can see my string making a mountain over here. It's coming out this way. So I'm going to put the string in the next one over, making the back side of the mountain. For those of you who are experienced, that probably seems ridiculous and it seems like obvious what to do, but some of you aren't experienced, so we're trying to give you all the best chance of success here. So for you beaders who know what you're doing, we're going to do that all the way around, and then we'll end up here on this bead, and then we're going to go through these next 2 beads here, because we're going to go through this one anyway, but then we need to go through this one in order to get lined up to do this one. So go ahead and pause the video here and do the other loops all the way around, 6 little round ones on each. Alright, I'm about to put on my last fluffy frill on this round, so I'm just going to do that with you so that y'all don't get confused. So I'm going to put on my 6. Got 3 on there, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Ah, shoot, I dropped it and all my beads fell off. Oh my goodness, I'm going to have to do that again. These things happen, folks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Alright, that's better. Alright, so here's my tail in the way, because it's right in the way of where I want to go, so yeah, it's giving me grief right now. So I'm trying to hold that off out of the way by wrapping it around my pinky and ring finger on my left hand. And I got my working end in my right hand, and normally I would just go through this bead, but I'm going to go through both this one and this one so that I'm set up to do the frill over here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. Maybe I can get my string through both of them at once, but maybe not. Oh, I did. I managed it. I got them through both. Awesome. That's what I like to see. Alrighty, so we're going to go ahead and put our second row of, I'm calling them frills. You can call them scallops, I don't care what you call them. Okay, so how we need to do this is alright, you can have 2 things happen. One is you can have a row of 6 at the bottom looking down low and a row of 6 frills looking up high, or you can carefully place your string so that they look like they're kind of in a spiral. This one looks kind of in a spiral. I've got the string coming below this frill and then above this frill. I don't know if you can see that. And so this next one, when I put it over, it's going below on this side and then above on this side. Below on this side and then above on this side. So if we do that, if we alternate coming out the different sides of the frill that we just put on, then they'll kind of all wrap around in a nice little scalloped skirt, I guess is what I'd call it. Otherwise, you'll have like 6 up high and then 6 below, which I don't like the look of that, but if you like the look of that, you go right ahead. And if that's the only way you can manage it this time, there's nothing wrong with that at all. We learn things as we go. You can't learn without failing. Also, I want to mention that if you have a problem with your string, it's really tough at this stage because you've got so much string working, and it's really curly from having sat on a spool for a long time, so it really likes to knot up. And if you get a knot, please resist the urge to pull it tight to see what's happening. Keep it nice and loose and kind of follow the strings with your fingers, with your eyes, and kind of try and figure out what is going on and undo it while it's nice and loose. If you tighten that up and it gets cinched really tight, it's going to be a nightmare to try and get undone. Now, if you have a severe problem and you need another piece of monofilament, you can buy some at your local craft store, or you can email me. I'll link my email address in the description, and I'll send you a new piece, because that is super frustrating to get a tight knot in your string and then not be able to do anything about it. All right, so this is my working string right here. It's coming out of this bead right here, so we're ready to put on our next frill. It's coming out to the right, well, it's my right, of this frill right here. So when we put our string back in, we're going to put it to the left of this frill up here, and then we're going to want our string to come out to the right on the other side of that bead. So I'm going to go ahead and do that with you a couple of times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 gold ones on our string. And now we gotta find where our string is coming out. All right, it's coming out there. This is my tail back in my way again, because it's helpful like that. So I'm gonna put it in to the left of this frill up here, and then try and get the string to come out to the right on the other side. See it there coming out on the right side? Okay, and that's how we're going to do it all the way around. So this is just like the last row, except we're going to be careful of where we go into and out of the black beads. So now you can see that I've got a frill over here, and then I'm starting the next one over here, and then the next one again starts here, and then we're ready to start our next one here, and it'll end over here, so that this one starts our next frill. I hope that made sense to you. I'll go ahead and do the next one with you, and then you can do the last 4 on your own. Gotta find the end of my string. Long way away. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, whoops, 4, 5, 6. All right, so my string is coming out on, this is where my string is coming out on the right side of this frill here. So we need to put it in this bead from the left side, and we want our string to come out up here on the right side. So hopefully I can hold this in such a way that you can actually see that happening. So here's our string on the left. We're going to go into the right over here. And then we want the string to come out to the left. And how I'm doing that, folks, is I am kind of using my thumb and middle finger and forefinger to just kind of roll this bead back and forth. So I'm rolling it kind of clockwise in my finger to get the string on this side, and then I'm rolling it counterclockwise so that this frill flips to the left to get my string to come out on the right side. Alright, so you can continue that pattern all the way around until you get to the end. Alright folks, you should now have little frills all the way around your row of 12 8mm black beads, or whatever color you're using. And it doesn't matter where our string is coming out of. It is important that we know which direction it's going. And we're going to keep doing the same kind of thing where we're going to put on our beads and then skip the next bead, skip the one that the mountain is going over. So we're going to make the mountain back on the other side and then go through the next one. And then we'll have our mountain over here, so we'll put our beads on and then make the other side of our mountain and go through this next one. Now, this time when we go around, we want all of our strings, our working end, to all be to the right of, well, I'm going to want it all to the right because my string is coming out here to the right. If yours is coming out to the left and you're going that way, then you're going to want to keep all of your strings going to the left. However you hold it, you need to go in the same direction, and you need the strings to keep being on the side of the frill that they're on. So mine is on the right side of the frill, and I want to work this way because that's what's comfortable for me. So I'm going to make sure that my string goes into and comes out of all of these black beads on the right hand side of this frill. So figure out where your string is coming out and which direction is going and what side of the frill it's on, and just make sure that you keep your thread coming through on that same side. So our next row is the row of triangles, our first row of triangles. So those are an oat bead, a little round bead, and another oat bead. So I'm going to do the first couple with you. So we have an oat bead, a round bead, and an oat bead. Whoops, I missed that one. There we go. Oat, round oat. Camera doesn't want to focus. Okay, here's my ring. Here's my tail over. Oh no, that's my long end, I think. Here's my tail over here. Okay, here's my working end coming out. Here, going that way, making a mountain over this bead, and it's to the right of all this frilly stuff, so I'm going to pull all my frilly stuff off to the left with my thumb so that when I make the back side of my mountain and go through this next bead, my my thread goes into and then out of, and see, it's not wanting to come out, so I'm going to actually move my thumb up and maybe like bend the circle so that it's not circular anymore. And I'm going to pull back, I'm pulling back my string until I can see the little end pop up. There, you saw it pop up. And then I can push it through. Things you learn. And see, my string even wants to twist up and the tail's getting caught in there and doesn't want to lie flat. So those are all normal things. Okay, so now I got one on. I'll go ahead and do the next one with you as well. So, oat bead, little round one, oat bead, let's see if we can get one here. There's one. Okay, so now I've got those 3 beads on. And I'm going to go through the next one in my ring. So I had to find my end. This is my tail right here. This is my tail right here. This is my working string right here. You want to keep the string going in the same direction. It wants to go that way. It's making a mountain over this one. And my string is, look, my string is on the wrong side. My triangle is over here and my string is over here on the right. So now I gotta take my string and I gotta put it through my fluffs, my scallops here. I'm gonna stick my string through there so that I can get it to be on the correct side. Did I do that right? Uh-oh. Uh-oh, what's going on here? I got a mess. Did I put it through the wrong bead? Did I put it through the, I put it through the bead by the tail again. That's the second time I've done that today, folks. It's a great day. Okay, so here we go. Now I got it for reals. I got my tail down here. If I had my chip clip on there or something, I'd be able to tell right away that that was my tail end. But no, I couldn't find one. All right, so there we go. We got our thingy right here that we just put on. We got our frills lined up here in a line. We got our string coming out of this bead here and making a mountain over this one, so we want to make the back side of the mountain through here, and we want to keep our string to the right of all of these frilly things. So I'm kind of pulling the frilly things off to the left so that my string will both go into, all right, I gotta find my end here. Oh my goodness, it's all wrapping around my tripod. The things we go through for crafts. But it's all good, folks. It is all good. Okay, so you can see my string coming out there. It's making a mountain over this one, though it's hard for you to tell because it's my fingers right on top of it. And we need to go through this bead right here and stay on the right side of it all the way through. So there we go. That's our second mountain. Okay, folks, I'm going to leave you here to do the rest of the mountains all the way around. It should look kind of like a Star of David. Point, 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 once you get this row on. So you will end up coming out right, let's see, we're going to go over that one. So you'll come out right here beside this gold oat bead, and then we'll get ourselves positioned to put on the next row. All right, I'll see you back in a few. All right, folks, this is what you should have. You see we have kind of the Star of David shape with these gold beads. And my string is coming out right here at the base of this gold oat bead. And to get ready for the next row, we're going to go up this oat bead that we're landed right beside, and then through this 2.5 millimeter bead right here. So that shouldn't be difficult because it's the one right beside where your string is coming out. We're just going to go up through that. There it is. So we missed the 2.5 millimeter this time, but we'll catch it up right here in just a second. There's my string coming out, and this one over here, this is my tail getting in my way, you know, because it's helpful like that. I wrapped it around my fingers, so maybe it'll be out of my way for 2 seconds now. Okay, so now we need to go through this 2.5 millimeter bead. And it's okay to like wiggle this however you need to wiggle it in order to get that string through. We can tighten this row back up in a minute. Okay, here we go. In fact, I'm going to do that. So how I'm going to do that is I'm going to go to the next one. See, this was the first one that we put on. So now I'm going to go to the next one and pull it tight from back to front, and then to the next one and pull it one back to front, and then to the next one and pull it back to front, then to the next one, pull it back to front. And am I back to the beginning? Not quite. Pull the next one back to front. You can see all the slack I've pulled out of this. And then pull my working thread. And now it's nice and kind of snug again. Alright, it doesn't have to be like tight, tight, tight. And if you get it too tight, if you pull too tight, these little 2.5 millimeter beads will break. They will break. I have broken several. Alright, so now we're going to put on an 8 millimeter bead in between each of these 2.5 millimeter beads. We're going to keep our string going in the same direction, so we're going to work, if we turn it this way, it's clockwise around here. Yours might be counterclockwise, and that's fine. Just keep going in the same direction. So I'm going to string on my 8 millimeter bead and then go through the next 2.5 millimeter bead in my row. I should call it a round, but I'm probably going to forget again. There. Like that, and then again. So this time we're coming out of this 2.5 millimeter, and we want our string to go in the same direction, so we're going to go through this one right here. So go ahead and do that all the way around. When you get back to the beginning, you will be going through this 2.5 millimeter bead that we went through at the beginning of the round. And I will show you that when we get there. Go ahead and take a minute now to put your black 8 millimeter beads in between each of these 2.5 millimeter beads at the tips of your triangles. Alright, I have 5 of my black beads on. You probably can't tell from it being far away, but now I'm going to put on my 6th one, and I'll show you putting it onto the ring so that in case you were having trouble, you can see it. Okay, so here we are in our ring. This was the first 8 millimeter we put on in this row, and here's where we started it, out of this 2.5 millimeter here. Our string is coming out over here, so we got to go through this bead right here, the same one that we started out of. I gotta find my end now. I dropped it. Okay, I got it. So this one right here. I'm using my fingernail to kind of push it out of round so that I can get to the hole. You may have to do that. Come on, get through there. Did it go? I think it, yes it did, but it went through the oak too. Oops. There we go. And I am having all kinds of fun with knots today. My string is just giving me all kinds of grief. So if that's happening to you, I feel your pain. A lot of times it's just twisted up on itself, and you just have to kind of, and that's my tail getting in the way right there. Sometimes it's just twisted up on itself, and you just gotta pull it out and let it recoil. Sometimes it actually ties itself into a slip knot or a figure-8 knot or an overhand knot, which you don't need to know what those knots are, just know that it happens. Alright, so now I've got 6 in a row. I'm coming out of that little 2.5 millimeter bead, and we're going to put on another row of triangles in just the exact same way that we did before. So we're going to put on our beads, and it's making a mountain now over top of that black bead. So we're going to put on the back half of the mountain and then go through the next 2.5 millimeter bead in our row. So I'll go ahead and do one of those with you. So here's our oat, 2.5 millimeter, our little round one, and another oat. Okay, and let's see, where's the, okay, there's my tail, and get that out of the way. Alright, there we go. I'm coming out of that one. It's kind of making a mountain over this 8 millimeters, so we gotta go through this 2.5 millimeter, which is our next one in our round. Okay, there we go. We have a mountain. It's kind of flopping over, or a triangle. It's kind of flopping over that way, but that's fine. We're going to pull it back up on our next row when we put our next row of 8 millimeter beads on. So it can flop to the outside, that's fine. So now we're coming out here, and we're going to, it's making a mountain here over top this 8 millimeter bead, so we got to put the back side of the mountain on, and then go through this 2.5 millimeter bead here. So I'm going to let you guys go ahead, you folks, go ahead and do that all the way around, and you will come out down here out of this 2.5 millimeter bead right here, right underneath this oat bead right here. I'll put that triangle on with you. Alrighty, I'll see you in a minute. Alright folks, I've got 5 of my 6 triangles on, and they're all lying to the outside of my row of black 8 millimeter beads. So I'm going to put on the last triangle with you, just so that you make sure it ends up in the right spot. So I've got oat, 2.5 millimeter oat. So there's my beads on. Whoops. Okay, good. I didn't drop my end. I thought I did there for a second. That would not have been good. Okay, so here we are coming out of that 2.5 millimeter there, and my string wants to make a mountain this way over this bead right here. So this is the next 2.5 millimeter bead in our round, which is where we started from. That is right. Should be where we started from. And we do need to go up this oat bead and this 2.5 millimeter bead to get ready to put on our next row of 8 millimeter beads. So if you happen to string up that oat bead, then you're golden. Don't worry about it, because we have to do that anyway. Now mine didn't magically go up there, so I'm just going to pull it through that 2.5 millimeter bead and then work my way up there. Sorry about the focusing issues, folks. There isn't much I can do about it, or if there is, I don't know about it. So if you have suggestions, feel free to let me know what those are down in the comments, and I will be grateful. Alright, my string is all caught again in my tripod stuff. Okay. Okay, so now I am through the 2.5 millimeter here. Come on, focus. And the oat here. And now I need to go through this 2.5 millimeter here. Okay, so I've gone through this one, this little 2.5 millimeter, and this oat, and now I have to go through this 2.5 millimeter right here. Alright, there we go. So we're through this 2.5 millimeter here, and you should have kind of a Star of David shape again, with these little 2.5 millimeter beads being the point of each of the arms of the star. And we're going to put on a row of 8 millimeter beads again. So we're already going through this bead, and our string is going around this way, so we're going to put on an 8 millimeter bead and then go through this one. Put on an 8 millimeter bead and then go through this one. Put on an 8 millimeter bead and go through this one, all the way around, and we should end up back here where we started, through this 2.5 millimeter right here. So let's go ahead, and I'll put the first one on with you, and then you can do the rest of them yourself. So there's my bead on. This is my tail getting all in the way. Okay, there's where my string is coming out, so I gotta do the next one in the row, which is right here. These should all be going through the tips of the row of triangles that I just put on. And there we go. If it doesn't tie in knots, which it's trying to do, it's just all twisted on itself. There we go. Focus, please, camera. Okay, so go ahead and do that all the way around, and you should end up right here. And then we're going to put on another row of triangles. But I'll tell you that again once you get all the way around. Alright, I'll see you again in a minute. Alright, I put 5 of my 6 black 8 millimeter beads on, so now I'm going to put on the 6th one in this row, and I'm gonna go through this 2.5, oh, here's where my string is coming out. I'm gonna go through this 2.5 millimeter bead right here, which is the one that our first black one is coming out of. And now we're going to put on our next row of triangles. So we're going to do oat, 2.5 millimeter oat, and then go through the next 2.5 millimeter bead in our circle. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now so you can see one again. Oh, 2.5 millimeter. Oh. Okay, so there's my string coming out there, making a mountain over this black one. So this is the next 2.5 millimeter in my row. So I'm putting on the back side of that mountain over the black bead. And through there. There we go. So you're going to continue to do that all the way around. And when you get to the end, you're going to be going back through this bead right here, which was the bead that we started our round by going through. I wish the camera would focus a little bit. If I move it up, if I move it down, should be going through this one. If I scoot that out of the way, that worked. So this one here, that's the last bead you go through. Come on, camera, please. There we go. That's the last bead you're going to go through, which is right underneath this oat bead, which was the first one that you put on in this row. All right, go ahead and do that, folks. All right, here's my row of triangles. You can tell it has that Star of David look again. And we're coming out of this bead right here, which is the same one that we started with, and it's right underneath this oat bead right here. So this row we're going to put on our row of the black 8 millimeter beads. So we're going to go up this oat through this 2 millimeter and then put on a black bead. So let's go ahead and do that. Here's the oat. My string going to come out. It did. It came out the oat right here. And my tail is getting in the way. It's my tail poking up from somewhere, from over there. Okay, we still need to go through this 2.5 millimeter right here. So I'm going to do that. Okay, now we're going to put on one of our 8 millimeter beads. And go through the next 2.5 millimeter bead in our round. So here's my string. It's wanting to go that way. And here's our next 2.5 millimeter in our ring. So we're going to go through that one. So you've already done this two times already, 2 rows like this already. So I'm just going to let you get to it and just remind you that when you get to the end, all the way around, you'll be going through this bead right here, this 2.5 millimeter bead that we just came through to put this black bead on. So I'll let you get that done. Okay, I've gone all the way around. I've got 6 new black 8 millimeter beads on the top. My working string, oh, that was my tail. Get my tail out of the way here. Okay, my working string is coming out of this 2.5 millimeter here, right before my first bead in my ring. See, this is the last bead I put on, this is the first bead I put on. And now we're going to do another row of triangles. So oat, 2.5 millimeter oat, and then go into the next 2.5 millimeter in the round, which is right here. So you've already done that 3 times. Well, 2 times plus this row, which is essentially the same thing. So I'm just going to let you get on with that, and when you end the row, you'll be going through this bead again. That'll be the last 2.5 millimeter bead that you go through in this round. So triangles, oat, 2.5 millimeter oat, and then go through the next 2.5 millimeter in the row. All right, I've gone all the way around with my triangles. Again, I have this Star of David shape, and my string is coming out of this 2.5 millimeter bead right here, right below this oat, and we're going to put on our last row of 8mm beads. Camera, I just wish you would just focus. So I'm going to go through this oat right here, and then this 2.5mm right here, and that'll get us all lined up to put on our 8mm beads. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. Here's my oat. And my string decided to make knots for me, and my tail got cut. Very nice. Okay, so now I'm through the oat. Now I got to get through this 2.5mm bead. Okay, and now I'm going to put on my row of black ones. So here we have an 8mm, and we're just going to go through the next 2.5mm in our round, which is this one right here. Okay, and you're just going to keep doing that all the way around, and you want to end up back through this 2.5mm right here, which is the one from which we started this round. So go ahead and do that now. All right, folks, I just put on my last row of 6 8mm beads, and my string is coming out here out of this 2.5mm right beside where I put on my first black one in the row. All right, at this point, you should have your row of 12 plus its frills, and then you should have 1, 2, 3, 4 rows of black 8mm beads. If you don't have that, go ahead and go back in the video if you need to and finish those up. Right now, we are going to put on our very last row of triangles. It's going to be exactly like the other rows that we've done. Oat, 2.5mm oat, and then go through the next 2.5mm bead in the circle. So I'm going to go ahead and do one of those in case you need a reminder. So oat, 2.5, oat. Uh-oh, it fell. Give my tray a little shake, try and get one to cooperate. There we go. Okay, so this is my tail getting in my way here. And now I've got my string coming out of that 2.5mm, making a mountain over that 8mm. We got to put on the back half of the mountain and go through this 2.5mm right here. And this is my tail getting in the way. There we go. All right, so go ahead and do that all the way around until you have 6 of those in the Star of David shape again. And when you end the row, you should end up right here, right before that first oat that you put on. Go ahead and do that. All right, I've got that row done. I've got my Star of David shape again, and my string is coming out over here out of that 2.5mm bead right before the first oat that I put on. So this next row is going to be just like the rows that we did with the 8mm beads, except that instead of putting on an 8mm bead in between each one of those critters, we're going to put on a 2.5mm bead in between each triangle. So I'm going to take my string, I'm going to go up through this oat and up through this 2.5mm bead to get my string in position to do that. Okay, there we go. Okay, and now I'm going to put on a 2.5mm. And then go through the next 2.5mm in my circle. like so. And I'm going to keep doing that all the way around. So you've done this 4 times already with the black beads, so I'm not going to do it with you. Just go ahead and do that all the way around, and you should end up through this bead right here, the one from which we started. Alright, I have that row done. So I've got a little loose bead in between each of these triangle points. They're kind of hard to see because they're just kind of floating over all the rest of this gold. But I got one between each of my triangle points, and my string is coming out right here, right out of this one, right by my fingernail. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go back through this whole ring so that we have 2 strings going through every bead, 3 in the case of this one because it already has 2 going through it, just to help us keep that row tight, because you'll see if I just tighten it up, it just springs back loose again. So we're going to go through all of those beads one more time. I'll go ahead and do it with you. Look how that I was able to get through 2 of those beads with one at once. So if you can do that too, that might make your life easier. If it's too much hassle and it's not working out for you, just do it one at a time. It doesn't matter. Oh, and that one just decided to go through the oat bead next door. That wasn't too good. So just all the way through that row you just put on, both the tips of the triangles and these beads that you put on between the triangle tips. If you need to squish your bell a little bit out of round to get the string through, go ahead and do that. Not going to make any difference. It's just going to pop right back into position. Unless you get it super loose, in which case you'll have to tighten it up, but it will just pop back into position once you tighten it up. I just dropped my end. That's always fun. It happens. Sorry, you can't see this. It's hard for me to get the camera lined up in a good spot. I need to get one of those overhead camera mounting rack thingies or something. Haven't got that far yet. Wasn't sure it was going to be worth the investment yet, but having such a difficult time with this that maybe it would be a good move. Okay, I'm almost back. I've got one more bead, I think. Yep. There we go. Okay, so if I look carefully, I can see that I've got 2 strings going through all the way around, and this bead here you can see 2 going into this bead here, 2 coming from this bead here, and then my working string. So we're going to go ahead and tighten that up as best we can. Try not to tug too tightly or else you'll end up breaking one of these little gold beads. I've done that at least twice in the last couple weeks, so it happens, and I've done it. Alright, so now we're going to put on the little X shape with the oats across the top. So I'm going to put 2 oat beads on my working ends. One, uh-oh, I sent it flying. 1, 2. Alright, so now we got to find the bead up here. Let me get my tail out of the way. I can, all wrapped around, all jiggered. Alright, so my string is coming out of this one, which is at the tip of one of our triangle points, and I need to find the bead that's directly across from it. So it's also going to be in the middle of a triangle point, and it's this one right here. So there will be 2 points between between the one we're in and the one we want on either side. So 1, 2, and then this is the third triangle point. That's the one we want. Or if this way, here's a triangle point, here's a triangle point, and this is the one we want right here. So it doesn't matter how you count to get there, as long as it's the third triangle point from where your string is. So what I'm going to do is I am going to notice that my string is coming out to the left of this bead here, and I'm going to go in from the left through the bead on the opposite side. So I don't know if you can see my string or not going through that bead. Okay, so then we have that. And I'm going to go back through only one of those. I'm going to turn a U-turn and go back through this bead so that my string ends up in between those 2 oat beads that I just put on. I'm going to try and, you know, cinch it up kind of tight, but again, I don't want to break any beads. Okay, and now I'm going to do one of these cross sides. So I'm going to put on another oat bead. And now I'm going to find the bead that's directly halfway between this bead that I started from a minute ago and this bead that I went into just now, and it's going to be the bead in between the other 2 triangle points. Or you can count 1, 2, 3 beads from each direction. 1, 2, 3 beads. I know it looked like I didn't count this one, but that actually is the one that my string is coming out of. So it's this bead right here. It doesn't matter which side I go from, it's the same either way. So there I've gone through that bead. Okay, and now I'm going to go back through that oat bead that I just put on. I'm going to turn a U-turn and go back through it. Okay, now I'm going to put on my 4th oat bead. Okay, and I'm going to find that a bead on the other side that's between the 2 points, or the 3rd bead over from either this one or this one that our first pair of oat beads comes out of. So 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3. It should be a loose bead, a bead between the 2 points. So I'm going to put my working string through that bead, if I can. My bead is being, or my string is not cooperating. Did it go through? Yep, that went through. Okay, and now I'm going to turn a U-turn again and go back through that same oat bead. Like that. Alright, and at that point we put on the clapper. So I'm going to take my string and poke it down through the inside of the bell through one of those quadrants, one of those spaces that is defined by this cross of oat beads that we just put on. So here I am going down through one of those, and I'm grabbing my string up from underneath, and now we are going to, okay, once we get that all through there how we want it, there we go. It's kind of pulled down now, but that's okay, we'll fix that in a minute. Okay, now we're going to thread on 17 of the small 2.5 millimeter beads. I'll do that with you here. 1, 2, whoops, came off. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Is that 6? Yep, 6, 7, 8, 9, 9, 10, 11, whoops, 11, 12, 13, uh-oh. One flung off. Now I lost count. I'm going to have to go back and count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Okay, I've got 17 of those. I'm going to let those fall down. Now I'm going to put on an 8mm bead. Okay, and now I'm going to put on one more 2.5mm bead. That's going to be a lock bead, okay? We're not going to go back through that one. We are going to line up these beads here, and we are going to set our working end alongside right here, alongside our string. Now we've turned a U-turn, and now we're going to go back through all of these beads. That's how it works best for me, to just line that tail up and then slide the beads from one string onto the pair of strings. Now my whole line has gone away, but that's okay. So go ahead and work all those beads back onto the working end of the thread. Sorry about that. I was trying to scoot in so that my hands are better under the camera. If it didn't screw up my focus, I might draw an X down there so that I know. Put your hands over here. Okay, I got some beads stuck up in there. I want to get them all out, so that's why I'm kind of shaking it a little bit. Okay, I think they've all come down now. So I've still got a few here to slide up onto my U-turned string. Okay, now we want to get some tail through here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab that locking bead down here between my thumb and forefinger so that the string can still move through the hole. And I'm going to pull on my working thread just to tighten that up a little bit, just so that I have some string up here. And then I'm going to take this string and push it back through my bell and up the quadrant that's across from where our string went down. So I don't know that you can see this, but my string is coming out of this bead over here and heading down into my bell. I can kind of see the reflection of it right in there. So I'm going to come up through this quadrant over here. If you look down in the underneath your bell, you might be able to see it better. I can kind of see the string coming down through that quadrant. So I'm going to stick my string back through the bell and up through that other quadrant, like so. And then I'm going to tighten up my clapper for real. This is my tail getting in the way. So again, I'm going to hold that locking bead so that the string moves through it and pull on my working end. And I'm going to pull it and push it up as tight to the top as I can. And it's not going to be perfect. You just have to, come to terms with that. So what I'm going to do, I've got the fishing line kind of wrapped around my finger here, and I'm going to push against the top of the bell with my thumb, trying to push it away from me while I pull with my index finger, and just pull out enough that the locking bead snugs up against the 8mm bead. I'm literally pulling it out of these fingers, but I don't want it to snap out of my fingers. I want it to slowly move against that bead just as I'm taking the slack out of it. So that's what we have now. Okay, now we're going to put on the handle. So to start that off, we're going to put on our last 8mm bead. At least it should be your last. I have two in my tray for some reason, but I picked one up off the floor. So that might be why I have one, but I thought I'd flung one, so. Who knows? Maybe I just can't count today. It happens, folks. Okay, so I got that one on, and now I think I'm supposed to have 37 or something like that left over to put on here. You'll probably have extra ones in your kit, so frankly you can make this hanger as short or as long as you want to, as long as you have the beads to do that. So you may even have a couple of oat beads left, in which case you can put the extra oat beads on your hanger. So like I did on this one, now I've got a really nice big hanger to hang over a tree branch. I think it looks kind of disproportionate, but it doesn't matter what I think. You do what you want to do. This one does hang very nicely over a tree branch though, so it's kind of handy in that regard. This one, for some reason, I counted wrong and didn't put on as many. I could probably sneak that onto a tree branch, but it's kind of difficult. This one is a little bit between those two. I know, let's count and see how many beads we have on that one. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, 32, 34, 35. I've got 35 on that one. So let's see if we can manage that again. So go ahead and put the number of beads on that you want. I'll aim for 35 or 36 or something. 3, 4, 5, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Ah, shoot, I dropped it. Darn it. Okay, how many beads do I have on here? 3, 5, 9. I might have to pick some up off the floor again. 10, 11, whoops. 11, 12, 13, 14. Ah, shoot. You're giving me grief. I'm going to put these on off camera. Alright, I've got all of my hanger beads on now. And I'm going to turn my string around in a U-turn and go back through this 8mm bead. And I'm going to hold on to that 8mm bead so that the string flows through it. And pull on my working thread. Uh-oh, what do I got going on here? I got it turned around in a loop-de-doo. Okay, so I'm going to hold on to the 8mm bead and pull on my working end until it cinches up with the top of my bell. Okay, now I'm going to look very carefully at my cross that's up here, my oat bead cross, and I'm going to find the oat bead that I started with. So it should only have one piece of monofilament going into it. So I'm going to try and show you that. This one, it keeps wanting to poke down in there. This one has 2 coming out of it. I don't know if you can see that or not. And let's see, this one also has 2 coming out of it. I don't know if you can see them or not, but it does. Okay, let's try the next one. Oh, I think that's going to be our winner. Trying to grab it here. Yeah, it's only got 1 coming out of it. So that's the bead we're going to come back down through. So we're going to go from the center to the outside of the bell. So I haven't lost that one. I kept my finger on it. So I just gotta try and maneuver it so that I can get my string to its hole. Did it go through? I can't tell. I kind of don't think so. Kind of. Okay, I'm gonna scrunch up the top of my bell so that I can get it that hole. There's my string going through it. And pull that tight. Okay. And now we're gonna go through that initial 2.5 millimeter bead, the one that's only got one string coming out of it, and we're going to go into that same bead from the opposite side, from the side that does not have a string coming out of it, so that we can balance that oat in between those two strings to kind of keep it centered above that bead. Or at least that's the idea. The reality sometimes does not make that happen. But there I'm through that bead now. All right, so there it is. Okay, now what we have to do is work our way down through the 2.5 millimeter beads and oat beads to get back to our tail. So here's my tail right here. It's coming out between this 8 millimeter bead and this 8 millimeter bead. So we need to trace a path from between these two 8 millimeter beads back up to where our string is. Okay, our string is going this way, so our path is going to be through this, well, it doesn't matter tons. So I'm going to go through this bead right beside where my tail is coming out, where my working string is coming out, down here, and then to the right through this 2.5 millimeter bead. Okay, then down through the next oat bead, to the left through this 2.5 millimeter bead, down through the oat bead, through this 2.5 millimeter bead, down through the oat bead, through this 2.5 millimeter bead, and down through this oat bead, and then through this black 8 millimeter bead, and that'll end up with my working end right here with my tail. All right. So do your best to do that, and that's where we're going to tie it off. So I'll let you all work on that. Actually, I'll let you watch me do it because you might find that very helpful. Okay, so here is where my string is coming out. If my camera decides to focus. Come on. Please. Always helps to be polite to your electronics. Okay, so it's coming out there, so I'm going to head down here. So there we got oat bead, pull through 2.5 millimeter, pull through oat bead, pull through 2.5 millimeter, pull through. Uh-oh, I tied myself in a knot. Better get that undone. There we go. Oat bead. Two and a half millimeter bead. That one's being pesky. Pull it through. Okay, my string went around the whole bell here. There we go. Okay, through the next oat bead. Okay, through this 2.5mm bead right here between the body of the bell and the skirt of the bell. Hope you know what I meant by that. Okay. Okay, and then down through this oat bead right here. And that'll bring us down to our row of 12 beads that we started this thing with. Oops, it fell out. Fell out of the hole of that oat bead. If I even was in it. Okay, there we go. Okay, now I'm going to double check the position of my tail, because that's where I'm going, is my tail. Okay, so here I am between these two 8mm beads, and here's my tail, one bead over. So, and it's on the bottom here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go through this 8mm bead right here, and I'm going to do kind of like what I did when I put on my frills. I'm going to go in this side and then kind of like flip it and squish my bell maybe so that the string goes out the other side to the left side of my frills, if I'm lucky, if I'm talented. Can't see it moving. Okay, I don't think that's going to work for me, so what I'm going to do, this is my tail in the way again, what I'm going to do is put it through on one side and then just thread it through to the other side. So I need to, here's my string coming out through that oat, and now I'm going to stick it through this black one right here, very easily straight shot through. It's looped around my hanger. Okay, and now I'm just going to thread the string from the back to the front of the bell, just kind of between here. It's going to, oh, I didn't get through the hole. There we go. It'll slide around through that bit of frill. That's fine. Okay, so there we are. We got the working string right beside the tail. They're both coming out of the same spot. See if my camera can focus so that you can see it. See, they're both coming out. And now we're going to tie a knot. Now, when we tie fishing line, we got to be careful because fishing line is kind of smooth and slippery, and it doesn't like to stay tied. It likes to spring back into its, long form. So what we're going to, but it does stretch. And then when it stretches, you can have it relax back into the knot. So that's what we're going to do. We are going to, when we tighten this, we're going to wrap the string around our fingers and stretch it a little bit, and then let the knot relax back shut. And that should let it stay tight. So I'm going to tie a square knot here. When we tie a square knot, we put our strings left over right, right over left, left over right, or vice versa. It helps the pieces of the knot stay stacked square, stay stacked in a ladder instead of having the ladder twist like a coil of DNA. So when it stacks straight, it's a much more stable knot. So that's what we're going to do, and we're going to do it 3 times. So I'm going to do right over left, untie it, and then this is, by the way, the same type of knot that you tie in your shoe. And let it stretch a little bit and relax. And then I'm going to do left over right. Again, the same kind of knot you tie in your shoe. Grab it and tighten it. I'm going to wrap it around my fingers a little bit. And so tighten it so that the string stretches and then relaxes back in. Now I'm back to right over left. I wish this fishing line was like fluorescent or something for these videos so you could see it better. It's clear, that way it hides when you're finished with your ornament, but hard for the videos. All right, so then I'm going to again wrap it around my fingers and tighten it. You can see it stretching there and then relaxing back into the knot. And that's all there is to it, folks. Then you can snip off your extra strings here at the bottom. And we're finally rid of that pesky tail. Yay! Pesky tail. Looks like I had a couple of feet of string left over. That's good. Okay, so there it is. There's our bell. I hope you enjoyed this project. If you did, I'd really appreciate it if you subscribed to my channel or left me a comment. That would be awesome. And if you have an idea for a craft that you'd like a little help with, or that you would like to see others enjoy, let me know that down in the comments too, or write me an email. I'll be sure and write my email address down there for you, and also in the description. All right, folks, I'll see you another time. Have a great day.